and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two you've read. I'm your host Scott, and I'm not alone. Toby's here too. This episode, we're talking about Sabrina by Drnaso. It's going to be mid to light spoiler level, so if that's okay with you, continue on, and I'll see you on the other side.
I'm looking forward to visiting this place called Canada and all its wonders.
Defo, come out. Trying to segue. What was the segue you had to the other book? Because I could just use exactly that one.
What, the kids?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just like what people get up to when they're children.
Oh yeah, no.
And yeah.
I did.
We really need to work on our segues, don't we?
And I think we just one of us needs to think of how it's going to go through. This is like the fifth in a row where we've joked about how there was no segue.
Yeah, well, you could have given you sent me a text the other day that was a question, and I'm assuming that was going to be a segue question.
Well, I need to talk about the book. That was almost like the end of the book question.
Oh, okay.
But actually, I thought of a more. So the question was, Toby, how do you deal with big news events? But actually, on reflection, I was like, I don't know what you can answer. I don't know if you have an answer. But the more interesting one I thought would be like, you have a young daughter. What do you do when she asks questions about serious issues? And I've just dropped that on you, but we can come to that at the end of the book. Toby, I've been reading Sabrina by Drnaso. Check out this cover. Wow. See if you can describe this cover.
Yeah. It's like a hand-drawn image of a girl with a bob haircut in a picture frame. What it looks like a picture frame with silhouettes of people along the bottom of the picture frame, and it's kind of like a shoulders up mid to close up of her face in like a side-on view, I guess. It's an odd one. It's certainly eye-catching.
What do you make of the style? Very stark and simple.
Yes. Yeah. Bleak.
This is a graphic novel.
Oh,
and here's the interesting thing for me was I just saw this on sale for $5, and I just thought, I'm taking a punt. I know nothing about it. Just looking at this cover, it's very red. It's got Sabrina written in like huge text and like almost like a bunch of people stood in front of a projected picture silhouetted, like Toby said.
And the reverse of it is the very antithesis of this, and it's flowers and brightness and lit and sort of. So to me, it's pangs of teenage angst, and deals with coming of age on one side and the hope and blossoming of young adulthood towards the end.
I think kind of that's what I thought I was getting into, because there's no description on the back of this book, just quotes about this is amazing. But the quotes are big quotes. There's one from Sadie Smith, Adrian Tome, and Jonathan Lethem.
Okay.
And this being a graphic novel, that's going to tie into something else interesting. This was the first graphic novel to be nominated for the Man Booker. And it caused a bit of a ruckus because this is a prestigious, I guess, British novel award ceremony. I know, what's his name? Ian McEwan got upset when they said Solar, I think, was too short. They said, this is a novelette. What do they call it when it's a mini novel? Novella. And he was like, I mean, if you know Ian McEwan, all his books arguably novellas. So he was a bit, well, says who? It's short. What is this bullshit? So there was also a bit of controversy, like if we're letting graphic novels in, where do we draw the line? Does Marvel come in next year? But these writers, like Sadie Smith saying, this is great, stop and read this, sort of turned people's heads. And the interesting thing is, it's one of those graphic novels that doesn't quite fit anywhere, because most comic awards are going to be just bigger, more sci-fi stuff. Like I feel like this wouldn't have a chance in the comic book world awards, but it doesn't quite have a chance in the book awards. But it's almost what this is about and how good it is. It's like, just let this one in. We're not going to be letting Marvel in next year. Just take it as almost like, this is how seriously you should be taking this book.
It's like that black and white one about the was it Periplosis?
Persepolitis and Mouse, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is a. I mean, when I say it's a small margin of these sort of graphic novels, it's huge. But I think someone was saying like when it comes to the awards, it's just a tight margin. That what is if you win best independent graphic novel book award, no one's really prestigiously knowing what that is. You know what I mean? Who follows that sort of? So I sat down to start reading, thinking it was kind of going to be almost like Juno, like or Ghost World. I think Ghost World. I have my eye on. If you've ever read the graphic novel of that or seen the movie, it's pretty paralleling. Just wry teenagers or young adults sort of finding their independent way in life. A lot of not Seinfeld observations, but just a warm, funny look at the simple things like renting your first apartment and why is my car's broken and I need a new car, but I got no money. I did not get that from this book. Wow. Was I looking for a wild card to be surprised? Yeah. We open on Sabrina and she's just in her apartment talking to her sister, and we just get a snapshot of who she is, and the chapter ends and we jump. And this is where I need some character names, so it's a bit of a cheat sheet. We sort of zoom into these other characters called Calvin and Teddy. Calvin is like an army guy. He's 90% of the time wearing these army uniforms, but there's a nice play. He's basically like an IT guy. He just works like on American base, just fixing the computers, I think, and stuff. And most of the time it's I don't know. You get this feel like it's just weird seeing someone in this sort of army uniform play out quite nicely. So his friend comes to stay with him, and he's depressed. And Sabrina's gone missing, and it's been a while. It's been some months, and so this is Sabrina's partner, Teddy, flying over to stay with Calvin, their childhood friends. But you soon learn, not that it's awkward, but they're a little out of touch. They almost haven't really been friends since childhood.
Right.
But Calvin's just a good guy. And it's funny, he's like, you can come and stay with me in my spare room, but he has made no effort to fix it up. It's like a mattress on the floor with boxes. Oh, let me move the boxes. And Teddy pretty much spends the rest of the book in his underpants. He just slips in this depression, and he just sort of sits in his room. He's so unaudible. You can feel the awkwardness for both these characters. And so this tentative little drama plays out. And so here's the first, I guess, bombshell. The news starts reporting that they've been sent this footage of a guy in a mask and a woman tied up to a chair. And in this footage, he's like a fanatic who basically goes on to kill her and kill himself. And that's the sort of kickoff, like, fucking hell, I wasn't expecting that. And it's just this quiet little drama about these events. And so
is the girl that's died in the video Sabrina?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Bloody hell.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, that's his girlfriend. Wow. That's it. Sabrina was murdered on video, and that footage was sent to the press, which led to them finding the body. And obviously, it makes national news. But we actually follow Calvin more so than Teddy or anyone else, just being this guy who's trying to help his friend. He's like a divorcee with a kid, and we get these little snapshots of him trying to deal with his wife. His wife or his ex-wife is pretty fed up with him, and I guess he's talking about, I'm going to move to wherever you are, California, what have you. I'll transfer. And she's like, you've said that a few times. And it gets to the stage where she's like, don't come. Like, I don't want you here. You're like an alien to your daughter now. It's too late and too little. And then that's where the super interesting thing starts to happen is I guess the conspiracy media just blows up on this. Like they start getting hooked on this radio show that's like a far-right conspiracist guy, and the internet is a buzz. It's like, none of this is real. They are actors. Who is this Teddy guy? Like, we just don't think anything is real here. Like I said, the world, or at least America, starts to sort of turn on them, or at least a faction of America. Their emails get sort of doxed. So they both start getting emails like, I know you're a good guy. You need to tell the world that this isn't real. You need to, like, you're a part of this conspiracy.
What's the conspiracy?
Oh, I mean, it's just different ones, but people just don't believe that this guy, like, killed her. They don't believe she's dead. they think it's just sort of far right conspiracism.
Right. Okay. So so in essence, this video of a fanatic killing this woman called Sabrina has been released, and then
the press don't release it, but it ends up on the internet.
Yeah.
So there's this dark thing of like people like, yeah, you shouldn't watch it, but people are drawn to these things. I remember some years ago there were some ISIS beheadings in real life, and I remember it might have actually been like a Charlie Brooker show, maybe, I don't remember, during a review, but there was an American news site that like one of the reporters was watching it, reporting what he was watching. Like, we can't show the footage, but here's my reaction. He's like, oh my God, oh my God, it's so brutal. And it's like, you tell me there's a video of someone being beheaded. I don't need this description, but it's sensationalizing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's like I was saying in one of our earlier ones about the disappearance of Devil's Rock, about how they deal with.
That's when you started talking about that. I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah. But so there's just this quiet drama plays out, and there's sort of no big events. Despite these incidents happening, it plays out quite quietly. Their relationship is sort of fascinating and a little scary at times. At one point, I think Teddy, in his underpants, he just literally sits on his mattress listening to this conspiracy radio all day, just goes to the kitchen and gets a knife and puts it under his bed. And you're like, damn. And then there's like a moment where we find out Calvin is like somewhat of a doomsday prepper. We just go into his basement and there's just like stacks of stuff. So I guess it's like, not that they're succumb to these conspiracy theories, but they just, you know what I mean? They're very human and they have their own beliefs and stuff. And I guess the paranoia starts to set in, like with Calvin
on the edge of unhinged.
And like we said, it's a very stark style. Faces are eyes with dots.
Right. Yeah.
And somehow it still does this really good way of just getting across how people are feeling, just with a mix of I don't know, because lack of body language.
Yeah.
How do you show someone's depressed when they're just two dots on a straight line for a mouth, which is the same as when he's happy? There's just something about this stark style which just really works for this particular story. And there's no real building to like a giant climax. Like those big events, it's hard to talk about it without talking about them because they're the super interesting about it, but they're kind of the biggest twists. And I feel like no one's. Would you ever read a book that you knew nothing about? If someone said, just read this because the less you know, the better. It's just not something people do now.
I would, but yeah, no, it's not a common thing. That level of intrigue would intrigue me.
But lack of intrigue. Like, would you pick up a book based on the cover and no back description and go, I'll give it a pump?
Yeah, that maybe not so much. But if somebody said, this is amazing, the less you know about it, the better. I would do that 100%.
Right, well, I've got a few. I'm gonna send them to you then. It's just. I guess it's a very modern look at America.
Okay.
Like, you know, when they say like, it's not about politics, but I guess it's that media far right political microcosm, close look, and it's just. I don't know. I was just so blown away by how fascinating and interesting, and knowing nothing about it was just like, I read this in one sitting. Like, it's a graphic novel. It's not particularly word dense. So you know, a couple of hours and you can read the whole thing. And it's just I just have tons of praise for it.
Yeah, that's
I guess it was a tough one. I didn't want to spoil it, but like I said, it's really hard to.
Do you think is that one that you'll keep?
No, I need to get. I just have space issues. I'll probably get rid of this today. In fact, I just kept it. I was going to give it a flick through this morning, but I never got around to it. Super. I just keep saying super interesting.
Well, it certainly sounds intriguing.
I guess I just love knowing that this kind of stuff is out there in graphic novel format. These like I think we said a little before. I don't really not too interested in the Marvel superhero stuff. I've read a few, and I probably will in the future. But there's almost so much out there. It just doesn't really appeal to me, especially now that the Marvel movies are what they are. It's like I can get my fix from the movies.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, they've got a plethora of stuff to pull from and interweave, and
filled me with joy knowing that there's these little gems out there like this, and I think there's hundreds and thousands. It's just trying to find them, and I think this is probably, I don't know, $32 is not too much, but I guess my problem with these, like I really like Adrian Toome, and I guess he's more fantastical, Alan Moore. But once I've read them, it's
Right.
like I should join a library. I
Yeah.
really enjoy reading them, but even though they are quick reads, it's I don't think I'll ever want to read this again. The only thing I want to keep
No.
it for is to give to someone I think might enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't think I know anyone who would read, like all my comic book friends readers wouldn't like this. Like it's too much of a quiet drama.
Mm-hmm.
And all my novel friend readers probably wouldn't quite like, oh no, I don't really like.
Yeah.
I guess this is what we were saying about the Booker at the
Mhm.
beginning and why I feel like it's important. It was nominated because it's like,
Mhm.
just take the shit seriously. It's good. Just give it a
Mhm.
go. I don't know. I
Mhm.
have friends who do that. Like, oh no, did you look at the pictures first? You read first? I don't know. And like, but why does that put you off? It doesn't. Like, whatever your instinct tells you to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Don't even look at the pictures because sometimes you just glance it, right? And that's all right. Like it's the story, absorbing the story is that what matters.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, I guess initially my question was going to be, how do you react to big news? And I thought, I don't know how interesting that is. Like the biggest news that I can remember, like I remember Princess Diana dying, but I also remember I was young enough that I was just indifferent. And I went skateboarding during her funeral, and I knocked on my friend's door, and I said, "Do you want to come out for a skate?" He said, "No, Diana's funeral is on." It's like, I mean, we were like what, 13, 14 at the time, 12? I don't know. We were young.
So what?
But he was like, "No, I'm watching the funeral." I'm like, "Why?" And he was like, "It's one of those events that people will say, 'Where were you?'" And I'm like, "Okay." And here we are. It is an event. Where were you? And I was out skateboarding is where I was.
This, yeah, and I think this is shows you the different types of people. I have no idea where I was. I literally got no idea. I remember seeing on the news that she died. I remember seeing pictures of the tunnel, and that's all I remember. I never watched the funeral, but if you were to ask me where I was when the towers came down, I remember like that was like it was yesterday. That was probably the biggest single event that I've had to deal with that shook the foundations of the stable world that I believed I existed in. Because suddenly here was this country under attack that I'd never seen under attack, never heard of being under attack.
It was possible, huh?
It was impenetrable. It was a safe haven. That was my portray and my illusions. And all of a sudden, right smack bang in the center of it, these towers and thousands of people were being killed, basically. And it suddenly weakened the very foundations of everything that I held dear. I suddenly thought, well, we could be next.
Right, if it can happen.
Yeah, if they can do that there, it can happen anywhere. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Really. And I remember phoning my dad and asking him what happens next, because I didn't know, and I was actively terrified and scared by was I going to get called up? Were we going to go to war? Was it going to be this massive like push to just destroy these people? Yeah, anything could have happened, and it was massive. I was in the middle of watching one of my favorite films of all time, and I paused it. This is, I stopped it halfway through the first ever watching of it, because somebody came to the door and was banging on the door saying, "Have you seen what's going on the news?" And we stopped it, put the news on, and then that was it for the rest of the day. That's all we watched.
Was that someone you knew? Like a stranger banged on your door and said...
No, this was somebody that I knew.
Oh, okay.
Who was coming over. I think it was a neighbor downstairs, actually.
Because I honestly took 9/11 very slowly to process. I think I was in college, like in class when it sort of broke, and not really comprehend, because I think literally I caught the news when the first towers hit. And so I was sort of in and out of it when the second towers hit. And at that time, there was no terrorist talk, like just very slowly processing the magnitude. Like it wasn't until I literally got home and it was at nighttime that I was still like, I'm trying to go about my day and this thing is just echoing, like almost trying to ignore it. So I was college, so maybe 16 at the time, and
Uh-huh.
in the suburbs of Surrey,
Mm-hmm.
so far away from it, it was just very odd processing for me. And I guess I didn't
Mm.
physically do anything, but I guess I just try to process it as just, new. This is just news of the day. And it took the day, if not a
Mm.
few days, to sort of realize the severity, if that makes
I
sense.
think I think I'm not 100% certain in this, and because there's been so much imagery of it, and I've seen it so often now. But if I remember rightly, we saw the first tower get hit, and then we were watching the news when the second tower was hit,
Mm-hmm.
and that that was it went from being a horrific accident to deliberate.
Oh,
and
okay.
and
Yeah. I guess I was
a
too young and
active
naive
attack.
to think that it was an attack. I
Mm.
guess I
And
just
then
thought,
it was,
yeah. I literally have about 4 media events that I think, and it's not a single event, but growing up with Stephen Lawrence in the news, and it went on for
mm-hmm,
so long, it was just a part of growing up in the
mm-hmm,
90s. I felt like it was in and out of the media for what, 10 years, maybe more.
mm-hmm.
At that, and Leah Betsy, who was a schoolgirl, I think, or sorry, who died of a drug overdose. And I
Oh
guess
yes,
she became the
ecstasy girl.
forefront for kids of don't do drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked for me. I was
It was
terrified of ecstasy and drugs.
yeah, and
You know what I mean?
parents
As a kid.
and the naivety of parents. There was a lot of people blamed their parents or her parents because they forced water down her, and
Oh
it
yeah,
was the
yeah.
excessive drinking of water that made her brain swell, and in the end,
Is that true?
possibly.
How you don't you have to give someone like gallons of water for that amount? Like I forgot all about that side of it, and now as an adult, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, is that even true?
Don't know. I can't. Yeah, this is
Like of
speculation. I
course,
don't want to
excessive water
speculate.
would does do damage, but I don't know. Yeah, that I completely forgot about that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I think those
Yeah,
three things, just Stephen Lawrence, Leah Betsy, and 9/11, Princess Diana.
yeah. I guess as we've gotten older, the world's gotten smaller, and therefore the the proximity of these types of things is easily it's closer to us because we can get to these places. Whereas before, as kids, you were always like Birmingham could have been America. So the Birmingham 6 bombing and all of that sort of thing,
Right,
the
right, right.
IRA, that still felt like not something that had to concern me. It wasn't down the road, whereas it is now. Just well, I live in Birmingham, but yeah.
What you can tell me if this is just all too, like modern times, obviously COVID-19, and it's more than a story,
Mm,
right? Because we know how that tangentially affected us. But having a daughter, like
mm,
I guess everyone always says, I know she would be well in that age range of she picks up and understands way more than you would have thought. Like when you
mm-hmm.
like, I guess I have a friend who tried to sit their kid down and said, "There's this thing called a pandemic," and they're like, "Oh yeah, COVID." Like we know about that. Everyone's been talking about it,
Yeah,
like in the playground for like ages now.
yeah, yeah.
Um, how did processing with your daughter work with COVID and
Because she doesn't live with me,
mm,
it was I wasn't actively hands on with a lot of it,
mm,
um, but again, like you say, the news. You've got the schools were teaching them and sharing with them. The news was telling them. She had Carrie who was sharing it with her.
okay, it wasn't
Um,
being shied away from, like schools
no,
addressed it.
no, no, no. It wasn't. Yeah, cool. Yeah, schools were addressing it. Then they were told to stay at home, which is, if you're suddenly going to school every day and then you're told you can't go to school, you're going to be
Mm,
like, oh, okay, oh right, okay, this is wicked, brilliant fun. And then it was like a whole year of being at home,
got out of control almost.
and it took. There was 6 month period where I couldn't get down to see her because I didn't drive.
Heartbreaking.
That was really hard. But you just deal with it the
Just
best
keep
you
going,
can.
huh?
Yeah, you just keep going and you make do. And going back to how the world's changed with the introduction of the internet, it made that much easier than it would have been without the internet. Yeah, I
Oh
was
hell
able to
yeah.
FaceTime her every single day. We would do Joe Wick's workouts together.
Oh, sweet.
All of that sort of thing was massive. We both found TikTok
Started a business.
Yeah, all of those sorts of things. So it was, yeah, you just deal with it.
Made
I
the
guess
best of
it's
it.
the thing. Yeah.
I guess,
And that's the way that society has shifted from what are those Asians doing with their masks wearing all the time?
I was going to say,
just the weirdest thing in the world to suddenly like, oh, it's commonplace now. You can wear a mask if you want to wear a mask, and you won't get 2 hoots anymore. But that shift has happened in the space of a year and a half, I'd say. Whereas now I wouldn't feel awkward wearing a face mask on a train if there was pandemic or no pandemic.
But I guess tying back into this book, the pandemic, the interesting thing of the conspiracy. Obviously, there's a lot of people. There's so many conspiracies about COVID itself. I guess I've always just believed it. Just always sort of made sense to me. Doomsday, not doomsday, but this has been on the scenario of things that could happen. This or along these lines was on the cards. I believe every government has this sort of set of files. So, like, what's going to happen if we get nuked? What's going to happen if the power goes out? What's going to happen if oil runs out? What's going to happen if we go to war with this country? And one of them, in theory, was supposed to be what happens if there's a country pandemic or a global pandemic. Turns out that file wasn't that articulate. It took a while. Yeah. I mean, almost economics and politics took over, right? It's easy to say now, well, we should have locked down, but the feelings at the beginning were like, you can't do that. Like, what the hell? What about people who are on holiday or trapped, right? It was inconceivable.
It's definitely real. I mean, there is definitely a global pandemic happening. That's 100% certain. You can't, it's undeniable.
I feel like it's similar to people who say the earth is flat and it's a global conspiracy. I'm like, no, what one country could convince everyone who needs to know this to lie to the world, and then tell every single country has to work together, even all the countries that are on war with each other. Yeah. Forget about the war. Are we telling everyone the world's round, right? Like we even though we're at war, we're working together to pull the wool over people's eyes. And I guess that's to me the pandemic. It's like it hit every country, and for it to be a conspiracy, it means every country, actually the world needs to be at peace, and the conspiracy needs to blow up more, that there's actually no sort of political turmoil. It's all a ruse for reasons I can't fathom. I'm sure someone does believe that. Yeah. But that it's just, I don't know, for me it was too easy to just think fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
Now I've fucking had COVID 100%. Like I was like 99.9999%. But now it's like, no, I had it. And this was the variant that was supposed to be weak, and it knocked me the fuck out. Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Yeah.
Check out Sabrina. No.
Welcome to the Dogeared Cafe conspiracy podcast.
I don't know. Yeah, a bit light on the review of the book, this one, but I did enjoy it. But a nice chat with Toby about the media,
the media and its force of mediaisms.
Have you read Sabrina, or do you believe COVID's a conspiracy?
Are you a flat earther?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments, or don't. Keep it to yourselves. Probably best.
Let's do the fade out here. Like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.
Damn it, every time. Why do we always forget to open with like and subscribe and then come in with it?
It feels a bit, I don't know, like I want people to listen to it and like it. I don't want, because I'm not going to lie, not many people have made it through all of our podcasts. Like our listen percent is pretty low. I think, I mean, I do, as we said before, we're on the wrong platform. We're a podcast on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like when I'm trying to find a census of a book and I'm listening to other reviews, like a very bullshit, fluffy review of someone just sort of, I don't want to give anything away, but I didn't really like this book and the characters weren't that good. Just literally that for 5 minutes. But in front of it, with books in the background, waving the book, gets thousands, like hundreds, maybe thousands of views. But I think it's because it's short, B, there's something to look at, and C, by the time you realize it's a bit there's nothing really there. It's sort of over.
Yeah. Totally, completely
asking people to listen to YouTube for an hour.
It's tricky.
And it's probably not that good. More importantly.
Well, apparently On Children episode 1 is really good. Because that's getting
I don't know
rave
what's
reviews.
going on. I don't think people are liking it because episode 2 has got 0 reviews. So we haven't inspired people to go on. But
it is a weird one, though, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, if for anyone listening, 400 is like, well, that's nothing. But for us, we're averaging 30 views.
People click on it and then
4 of them are Toby. One of those are me.
They stick around for about 5 minutes and then
25 on average.
Yeah.
So suddenly and this was in a short period, literally since the New Year episode. Like in 1 month, we went from like 50 views to, I don't know, 400 or 500 views. I just think it just dropped in a country or like some school assigned it. Like, watch this episode and write a report.
That's a big class.
I guess, I don't know. Yeah, that's true. It's odd. Jokes on them. We bring nothing to the discussion. Who knows the way the internet works?
Yeah.
It's all a conspiracy. Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. And thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode. And until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.